Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.
Welcome to a special episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Bannum, and it's a special episode because I'm joined by some pretty cool people doing some pretty awesome things. My guests today are William Tincup and Ryan Leary, co-founders of WRKdefined, a cool podcast network offering shows focused on the world of work. Ryan is a marketeer, recruiter, advisor, and podcaster. He says he breaks things to make them better. Unless it's around the house, then it's often left broken. William is an influencer, podcaster, analyst, strategist, writer, speaker, consultant, advisor, investor, and journalist. At his core, William describes himself as a thought provocateur in that he evaluates what is and questions why. William has been on the show a few times before, and we'd urge you to listen to those episodes as well. William, Ryan, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the HR Chat Show today. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you, Bill, for having us.
Doing well. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the invitation.
So just to start with, if you could each take a minute or so and introduce yourself to our audiences. William, we've had you on the show a few times before, and it's been an honor, may I add. But I'm going to invite Ryan to go first because he's not been on the show before.
Yeah, I was hoping you would go first, William, because then I could just say ditto, but like 50% of that. So Bill, everything you ever known about William, recruiting, talent acquisition, all of that stuff is where I've grown up. Many people know me on the marketing side and recruiting because that's where we were for so long. But if I had to kind of paint a picture, I'd say 50% of what William can do and say. Because if I said the stuff William said to clients and to people I'm working with, they would look at me and just leave. It works for him. For me, not so much. But I aspire to be greatness. Real quick story. It's just popped in my mind. Sorry. I'm going to embarrass William in his humble self. We were on a plane one time, and I was sitting here, and he was sitting in front of me, and I took a picture of him, and I said, you've made it when you're right next to William Tincup. And then here we are next to each other on the screen. So I've made it.
And you want me to introduce myself, Bill? Or do I just say my
William,
name?
You know what, William? No, you know what? Ryan, thank you.
We don't have enough time.
No, William, for you. Instead, I'm going to direct our listeners to check out past episodes because they can learn a bit about it. Instead, William, I'd like to know what gets you up in the morning.
I think growing WRKdefined actually would be the easiest way to kind of sum it up. Is I love what we're doing and what we're building, and we've got some great goals, and there's so many wonderful podcasts out there that are independent, are wonderfully just kind of doing their own thing. It's nice to bring them into a house and get them to promote other shows and for them to be promoted by other shows so they can get new listeners. Like, that's actually exciting for me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HR Chat Podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at HRgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
All right, very good. A lot of our questions today that I've got for you are geared at both of you, but the next one is just for you, Ryan. Let's just have a bit of Bill and Ryan time for a moment.
Boy.
Ryan, it is your first time on the HR Chat Pod.
It is.
Welcome again. You're in good company with the likes of Mr. Tincup here. You have had an impressive career to date. Well done. What's one lesson that you wish you could share with your younger self to help them have a smoother career journey?
Not to care what people think. I think it took me a long time to not care what people think and just do what I want to do. And if I would have learned that probably 15, 20 years earlier, I probably would have been a lot better off. But I think, it's an interesting question because I've got my oldest is now entering into college next year. And I'm trying to talk with her. I don't want to be a lecturer, which I end up being. But one of the things I always say to her is, you're 18. Like, you've got the next 15 years to screw up. And I didn't see it that way. I saw it as, you got to get out there, you got to do it. And I cared what people think. Not so much anymore. My view on that has changed. And that's what I would tell myself, not to care and just go forward.
In 2025, being prepared to support your employees during times of crisis is more vital than ever. The Crisis Ready Workplace program, designed by Dr. Bill Howitt and brought to you in partnership with HR News Canada and HR Law Canada, and supported by the HR Gazette, equips professionals and leaders with the knowledge, skills, and tools needed to effectively navigate workplace crisis, ultimately boosting employee well-being and enhancing organizational performance. Crisis Ready Workplace will take leaders beyond conventional risk preparedness to redefine what it means to lead through uncertainty. Expect to dive deep into interactive sessions, groundbreaking strategies, and transformative insights designed to prepare organizations for any challenge. This comprehensive program is pre-approved for 14 hours of CPD credits by HRPA, CPHR, and CPD International, and empowers leaders in crisis preparation, foundational knowledge, and supportive training. Sign up today at crisisready.ca. And now back to this episode of the HR Chat Show.
Do you know what? I had an instance of that yesterday when someone criticized my dog walking abilities on the local
Dog walking?
Yes, they felt that I should have kept my dogs on their leashes, and I had a difference of opinion. And I'm old enough now to express that. There we go. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are co-founders of WRKdefined, a podcast network specializing in everything related to the world of work. As Kevin W. Grossman used to say on a podcast that I did with him, what was the genesis of that? Why set it up? Share the story of how you guys came up with the idea to create WRKdefined.
Yeah, I think we wanted to get into video podcasts. We had both podcasted for a long time. We wanted to get into video. We wanted to get into scrollable content, so bite-sized content. We kind of saw the death of driving people to a place. And being on Spotify and Apple and all the other places where people listen to podcasts is more like being where they are instead of driving them to a website, because we just saw the decline of the return on investment of getting people to do something they didn't want to do. And because we were already podcasting, we had a lot of friends already podcasting. They're independents. It's really hard with an independent podcast to get, exposure, if you will. And so we just formed a network for work. So if the show touches work, mental health, wellness, performance compensation, all the things that touch work, like we've got 3 shows that talk about payroll. Which, if you would have asked us a year ago, hey man, how many shows are you gonna have about payroll? We'd have been like, probably 0.
Yeah.
But those shows do really well. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bill, we're just scratching the surface with this, and it blows my mind. It's yes, William, what gets him up, and I mean, I probably wouldn't have gone there. I probably would have, I don't know, said something else. But as he's saying them, like, we really are just scratching the surface. I mean, we started this thing, and it is grown. It's got legs of its own now. People are starting to recognize what it is, where it's at, and we really haven't had a coming out party at all. I mean, this is probably the first time we're talking about it live or in a recording anywhere. I don't think we've done that before.
We've not.
No,
We've just decided to just put our heads down and build the network. And at one point, we'll be sitting on 300 or 400 shows. Then we'll actually tell people.
Yeah.
And draw more attention to it. But right now it's more of a game of acquisition, getting the shows on the podcast, on the network, getting them set up, getting their promos and their ads set up and things like that. So the genesis for why, or the origin story for why we started WRKdefined is really simple. We came out of a media space that was in decline for all the reasons that I've already stated. And then we started a new media play that basically looks at what's already established, whether or not it's audio or video. And now we just pull it all together and promote each other's shows, build a community, monetization, help with monetization. And it works for a lot of people so far.
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Goodwin, president at Career Club. Imagine with me for a minute a workplace where leaders and employees are energized, engaged, and operating at their very best. At Career Club, we work with both individuals and organizations to help combat stress and burnout that lead to attrition, disengagement, and higher healthcare costs. We can help your organization and your workforce thrive, boosting both productivity and morale across the board. To learn more about how we might help you and your company, visit us at career.club.
All right, so it sounds like a bit of an HR Gazette exclusive. I will take that, chaps. Thank you very much.
Exactly. There you go.
So you do have many great shows on the network already. Congratulations. Do you want to point to a few folks who are involved? For example, you've got Leary, her show is on the network. And also talk to us a bit more about the plan to grow the network over the next 12 plus months.
Yeah, so we've got a lot of really fun people so far on the network. Some are friends and family, right? We needed to start somewhere, but now we're starting to expand outside of who people we know, which is really exciting for us. But yeah, you're right. We've got Lori, Tim Sackett. We've got people like Bob Pulver and Brent Skinner
Sure.
and some of the others, and it's really interesting because some of them have established shows. They have an established audience. Others don't, and we're seeing them all work together now, which is cool because we don't have to hold their hands, right? Like they're actually communicating with each other. They're in a community, and they're growing their shows, which is awesome to see. And so everyone's growing and everyone's generating their own business off of it as well. But we're starting now to see shows that we've never heard before, that we never thought, financial shows, financial wellness shows that want to be part of something with work. Um, who knew? And here we are.
Yeah, and there's the big opportunity there is people that do live streams, that do LinkedIn lives,
Yeah.
or they do other types of things like that. They've not thought of or can't get to this place where they also create a podcast based on that. So we strip out the audio and then syndicate the audio to all the places where people listen to podcasts. And we're also now a member of Spotify's video podcast network, which means we can take their LinkedIn Live podcast and take that video and put it into Spotify.
That's right.
And help them monetize that LinkedIn Live that they're sitting on, hundreds or whatever it is. Like in Shally's case, he's just sourcing, probably the godfather of sourcing in some ways. His Shally's Alley is hugely popular on LinkedIn. He reached out to Ryan, talked to him about what we were doing, and it's like, listen, we can take the audio out, strip it, and make it go to all the places it needs to, but we can actually take the Shally's Alley video and bring it into Spotify. And he just blew his mind. He's like, how fast can I get started? It's like, it's a pretty low barrier to get started with us because we don't have contracts. We just have an MOU that kind of outlines our behavior and how we monetize and how we share money.
Shout out to Shally, by the way. He's been on the show a couple of times before, listeners.
Great
He
guy.
shared a post. He shared a post towards the end of last year. He's not been very well. He's doing a lot better now.
Yes.
So Shally, if
Yeah.
you're listening to this, we love you, man. You're a good guy, and we're glad that you're on the road to recovery. Guys, we're talking all things podcast today. So I'd love to hear from you just briefly. What's a podcast, work related or extracurricular, that you've recently enjoyed? William, would you like to go first?
Not one of ours is what you're saying?
Something else. Something.
What else
those
is
are
there?
all amazing.
Is there anything else?
I think Chad and Cheese do a wonderful job in our space of they've got they got an angle, they got a shtick, they've got a play. I like both guys. I like the way they go about it because they've got a very, again, it reminds me, and Americans will remember kind of a Howard Stern shock jock type of thing. Like their bid is they come hard. They come hard in the paint. They're looking for facts. They're BS into indicators pretty high, and so like they just hit it hard. And I think it's good for the audience because they know what to expect. Like the audience isn't shocked. Recruiting Animal used to do not that, but Recruiting Animal, his podcast for years was you entered the dungeon and boy, get ready to fight. because he's going to bring up something you wrote in '94 and start hitting you with a bunch of things because he did his research on guests. But I think Joel and Chad, I think they do a wonderful job, both in consistency of what they do for their audience and for the people that support them, their sponsors. So I'd probably point to them.
Ryan, what about yourself?
So outside the space, I like to listen to useless things. I like to just kind of clear my mind and keep me moving. I do a lot of business podcasts, but one that really has kept my attention is the Smartless podcast, which is with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. Couldn't think of that name there. It's just fun. It's just light, fun, and they just bring on mystery guests, and you get to hear them talk. And 60 minutes later, the treadmill stops, and I'm good. So I dig that.
Very good. I'm not that anybody cares what I think, but I'm currently into the Rest Is series. So you got the Rest Is politics, the Rest Is football.
Oh, cool.
Soccer, as you guys would say. Very good.
I'd say football. My United won yesterday, so I can actually say that I'm a United supporter and have been since '92. But they squeaked out a win yesterday, so very happy for them.
United, you must be meaning Newcastle or West Ham United.
No, Manchester. No. Back then, seriously, the reason why I went with Manchester United is back in the late '80s, early '90s, NBC Sports only had a contract with Liverpool and United. Manchester United, there is no other United. Anyhow, so those are the only two clubs. And at the time, if you remember in the '80s, Liverpool had won everything. And so in United hadn't won anything in a long time. So I'm like, I'll go with the upstart. I'm gonna go with Manchester United. And then they went on a tear in the '90s and some of the aughts. They've been through a pretty dry patch of late, which is fine. That's how you support a club. That's how you know you're a supporter of a club, is you support them even when they suck, even when it's going to be disappointing. But I watched that match. I watched every single minute of that match yesterday, and I wouldn't say that they looked good in the first half because they didn't, but they got it together in the second half, and they came away with a win. Which, when Sir Alex Ferguson was their manager, that would have been a business trip. Go to Fulham, go to Craven Cottage. Yeah, that's a victory. It's just by how many goals is it a victory. Since his retirement, none of these are business trips. They're all going to be hard fought. Whether or not at Ipswich or wherever it is, it's all going to be hard fought. But they did win yesterday. I'm very happy about that.
Well, as a Norwich City fan, I'm always happy if anybody beats Ipswich. Just putting that out there.
Is it Norwich? Isn't that Wales?
Wales? No. It's the east of England, sir. Not many people live in this part of our very populated island.
I'm thinking of Swansea. Okay, yeah. Okay, got it.
We are on the other side. We are almost out of time already for this particular conversation. So I had more questions for you, but I want to reserve a few minutes because I've got some others for a special episode. So just before we wrap up, how can we connect with you guys out, and how can we learn more about WRKdefined?
Yeah, just Google Ryan Leary. I'm out there. LinkedIn, Ryan Leary. Everything is just Ryan Leary, one name. I got all the tags, which is good.
And same thing with William Tincup, but the website is WRKdefined.com. And again, it's on all the social media platforms and things like that. But it's super easy. And if you want to email us, mine's Tincup at WRKdefined, Ryan's at Ryan at WRKdefined. Mm-hmm. We purposely didn't create a kind of a code or whatever they call it now for email addresses. We went with my last name and his first name purposely. So anyhow,
just for the email address.
just to make people to bounce their emails. Email us, reach out to us on social. We'd be happy to talk.
Very good. Well, that just leaves me to say, Mr. Tincup, I would do this with you every week if I could. Ryan, it's lovely to get you on the show for the first time. Let's make sure we do it again very soon. Thank you very much for your time today.
100%. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.